Thank you for agreeing to participate in the pilot and for giving your time today. My name is Marcus Dyer. I work on the Professional Standards Department at the General Public Council. I'm joined today by my colleague Richard Tucker, who's our Head of Communications, and Katrine Guthrie, who is actually leading the workshop today. Katrine's worked on developing the revalidation manual that you have and the assessment criteria that's contained within it. So why revalidation? GOsC has identified three main reasons why we're proceeding with this pilot. First is that the government has asked us to do so. It's asked all healthcare regulators to look at the evidence base for revalidation and to consider for their individual professions what the benefits are to patient safety and what the impact is in terms of cost and time, and to see whether the benefits outweigh the cost of that. To do the cost benefits analysis, we've employed a company called KPMG, who will be collecting all the feedback during the pilot to do the analysis for us. At this stage, I'd just like to say that the proposals for revalidation are not a test. They're ways which you can demonstrate how you meet our standards. So it's not the same as the PPP process, which was a very prescriptive test. These are ways which you can help to evaluate your practice and offer ways in which you can improve the quality. Secondly, we've identified through some of our processes like CPD that osteopaths don't, in general, have access to the same templates and processes that other healthcare professionals may do in day-to-day practice. And the revalidation manual hopefully offers you some templates by which you can evaluate your practice and hopefully improve the quality by using some of the tools that we've included. Thirdly, revalidation is a way to demonstrate to yourself, to your patients, to the public that you continue to be fit to practice and are up to date. At this stage, I'll just draw you to the step-by-step guide that we included in the manual. Obviously, we've completed steps 1 and 2, which are enrolling on the pilot and agreeing to participate in the training. Step 3 is planning your evidence. And the intention of the pilot workshop today is to help you to understand what the manual is asking you to do in the pilot and to help you plan in advance what you will be doing throughout that 12-month period. Step 4 will actually be undertaking the pilot, and what every osteopath participating, all 500 of you, will be doing is completing one piece of evidence in every 3-month period during the next 12 months. After 3 months, you won't have to submit that evidence to GOsC. You will have to report to KPMG on your experiences in generating that evidence. So that's feeding back on the number of hours that it took you, what the impact was on your practice, what you thought was beneficial from undertaking that exercise, what you thought were the disadvantages or some of the impacts. And in the pack that you've got today, there is an example of some of the questions that KPMG will be asking. Pilot participant survey, and you'll be asked to fill one of these in every 3 months. They'll be sent out in an electronic form, but if you need to complete them in paper, they'll also be available in paper copy. It's useful to make yourself familiar with the types of questions that KPMG will be asking you, so you can start to think about that information as you go through the pilot.
Excuse me. Are you saying that the actual evidence we produce isn't looked at by anyone?
Basically, the 3-month periods throughout the 12 months, all you need to do is generate the evidence and provide the feedback to KPMG. At the end of the 12-month period in September 2012, you'll be asked to submit a portfolio of that evidence to GOsC, and that will be all 4 pieces of evidence that you've collected over the year. That will then go to a GOsC-appointed assessment team, who will look at what you've submitted, and basically they will be testing the assessment process. So we'll appoint them, and they'll be providing feedback on how the assessment went. And they'll be assessing that in October 2012. It's important to say that we're testing the pilot, we're testing the process, not you as individuals. So you will get some feedback from the assessment itself, we're not using that information as a test of you, we're using that information as a test of the process.
Would we get information as to whether we fulfilled the criteria or not?
You will. I mean, you'll get some guidance as to how if you've met them, or where the assessors may feel that you need some further guidance as to your practice. What we're testing as part of the pilot as well is, are you able to meet these criteria? So have we drafted these criteria in the right way that osteopaths will be able to meet it through some of the tools that we're suggesting? So that's part of the test in the pilots, which is why we're testing the process and not you as an individual. So we're testing everything in the pilot, basically. We're testing whether the manual is drafted in the right way, whether you're able to use these particular tools in practice, whether they're helpful to you, whether you can meet the assessment criteria that's contained there, and any other feedback that you have on the pilots. And like I say, it's not just you as the osteopaths who are feeding back into this. Also, the assessment team will feed back, and GOsC will as well, because there will obviously be an impact in terms of cost and burden on the GOsC as well, and we need to take that into account when making a decision on how revalidation will proceed. Before I hand over to Katrine, I'd just like to touch on CPD. You'll be awarded 7 hours of CPD for this training session today, which you can use straight away. You've also signed up to be awarded 30 hours of CPD at the end of the pilot period. So that CPD can be used any way that you wish, so you can use it straight away, or you can use it in future years as well. You can also use it for, if your CPD year finishes during the pilot period, you can ask for your hours to be rolled over to the next year and use that 30 hours against those. So it's up to you how you use that, but you just need to inform us how you want to do so. So at this stage I'll hand over to Katrine Guthrie. As I said before, Katrine Guthrie helped to develop the manual as part of a team of both lay members and osteopath members. They produced the manual itself, produced the revalidation assessment criteria. Katrine's background, she's not an osteopath, she's actually has a background in nursing, but also education. So I'll hand over to Katrine to lead.